All right, welcome back to Texas A&M Aggies Live, part of the Voice of College Football Network. I'm your host, Cameron Honesty, joined as always with my co-host, Ken Torres. We are coming off of Texas A&M landing, I forget what the number is now, but they're at a total of 18 transfer portal commits. This is a week and maybe a couple days after the portal opened. But we do have to obviously just talk about some big news that happened on Sunday afternoon, actually for both two teams. The Texas Longhorns officially signed Cam Coleman from the transfer portal. This was a rumored thing for the last, few days before. I think Billy Lucci at TexAgs and others had said, well, we were hearing a lot of chatter that Texas felt really good on their side. The financial package was strong. Plus, some of it had to do with, him majoring in business and wanting to go to Texas. They have a good business school, et cetera. That doesn't take away from Alabama and A&M scholastically, and even Texas Tech in some regards. But Texas is a very good school in terms of, getting an education. And at the same time, his fit there is pretty seamless. They were desperate for an elite wide receiver. DeAndre Moore entered the transfer portal. Ryan Wingo, who they feel is still going to be a star for them, had a lot of issues with drops last season. So they needed a sure hands guy and obviously a pure X that's going to help quarterback Arch Manning out next season. But this isn't a Longhorn show, so we're not going to get too much on that. Texas A&M, though, on last Thursday, after we kind of heard that chatter, a huge name entered the portal in Alabama transfer wide receiver Isaiah Horton, who led the Crimson Tide with 8 touchdowns last year, was a favorite target of Ty Simpson, just an elite player, in my opinion, very versatile guy, also 6'4", so to compare, Cam Coleman's about 6'3". Maybe he might be measured a little taller when he goes to the NFL, but either way, he's a little bigger, and he's a very proven player. Started his career at Miami, and for A&M fans who can think back to that 2023 road loss to the Hurricanes, he had a big touchdown when A&M was up 17-7. That kind of cemented his ability, and really that's when he became a star in college football. So he entered pretty immediately. I actually wrote an article that night for Aggies Wire saying, hey, A&M, reach out. Like, get this guy on campus this weekend.
You pushed the agenda.
Yeah, we all push the agenda. That's kind of our job. I kind of go back to when Tyler Onianem was on the market. I was one of the first sites to do that. And lo and behold, they got him on campus. Sometimes it helps when us in the media kind of push the staff in a way to maybe get a name out. Not saying I had anything to do with it, but it was nice that those guys knew Elko was on top of it. They got him on campus this weekend and gained a commitment from, again, one of the best players that the portal had to offer after he entered. A&M has got their ex-wide receiver now. This group is as good as it gets, in my opinion, knowing they have, obviously, Mario Craver coming back, re-signed with the Aggies about a month ago. Ashton Bethel-Roman, who's a rising star. Terry Bussey, who, was rumored in some areas of possibly entering the portal. Nothing's happened there. We feel he's going to be back. We haven't got an official announcement yet. But if he's back, along with a young group of incoming freshmen in the 26 signing class, including Aaron Gregory and Matty Williams coming in, this is as good as it gets for starting quarterback Marcel Reed.
100%. Isaiah Horton was a kid last year. A&M was also looking at in the transfer cycle out of Miami. And he did end up visiting A&M last year. And from all accounts that I've heard last year, he did love his visit. But the opportunity at Alabama was just way more enticing to play with Ty Simpson and elevate what could be a very good year under Kalen DeBoer. And who knows why he entered this time, but it just now, as soon as he entered, we knew that A&M was going to be at the top of the list, not necessarily as a backup option to if A&M didn't land Cam Coleman, but someone that they thought could come in and be an absolute game changer when it comes to the red zone, which the Aggies did struggle a little bit this past year. But, his production in Tuscaloosa matches his role. He played in all 15 games, started 11 of them, led Alabama in receiving touchdowns with 8 of them. And then he was tied. Those 8 touchdowns is tied for third in the SEC in receiving touchdowns. So 42 receptions for 511 yards is nothing to bat eyes over, but you are bringing him in the hopes that the elevation of play that you get from guys like Casey Concepcion, who's leaving, you're filling in, and you're filling in from the portal with that.
Yeah, and you're finally getting that bigger bodied receiver that you just didn't have when Noah Thomas entered the portal. And no offense to Thomas, very productive player during his time at A&M, dealt with a lot of injury issues, so it was always a problem keeping him on the field. But Horton's just got something different to his game. I mean, he is a field stretcher. He's somebody who, I mean, you talk about when you scout wide receivers, soft hands is a big thing. Can the guy catch the ball at a consistent rate? This is somebody you can trust, especially on third down. He's really good in the middle of the field as well. This isn't just a guy you put in the boundary and go and for go balls and 50-50 balls, but he can certainly do that. This also adds another weapon in the red zone, which A&M has been lacking. Obviously, Holman Wiggins, who's going to be a first-year offensive coordinator, having a player like this that he's already familiar with, and he's already established a relationship as the wide receiver coach during his last 2 seasons with A&M with this entire receiving core, it's going to be much easier to call plays knowing the skill set that this group presents, and that it's good that they got this done as early as possible so that Marcel Reed can start to gain a chemistry with Horton. What we did report credit to Carter Carrolls for kind of 24/7 for actually putting it out there that Sunday night. We wrote about it at Aggies Wire. They have a past relationship. Both are from Tennessee. Actually played on the same 7-on-7 team. Took a photo after that 2023 game when he was with Miami. And so they know each other. They're friends. I'm guessing he was a big part of trying to bring him in here, knowing what he could do for A&M's passing game next season. And I think it's just a slam dunk opportunity for everybody, especially Horton, knowing that Alabama's going through some changes. Obviously, Ty Simpson declared for the draft. They don't really know who the quarterback's going to be right now. And he feels like even though he could probably still thrive at Alabama, he's now playing with what I consider an elite wide receiver core, especially in the SEC. And his fit, as we just stated here, is perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a whole slew of like transfer portal commitments to go over from our time last week. So we're gonna dive into it, man, because I absolutely love some of these pickups that they had in the past week. So who do you want to start with?
So if we go kind of early, I think it's right after our show, and we can kind of focus on the defensive line because we will focus on the offensive line, so we can have a really interesting discussion there. But right after, Ryan Henderson, the San Diego State edge, committed to A&M. And that was a guy, he was on campus, I think, that day. I believe it was either the last 2 days or that day. But somebody who, when you look at his stat line, you look at his PFF scores, he's a riser. He's someone who kept working, putting work in the offseason, getting bigger and stronger, had 7 sacks last season. San Diego State, known for their defense, especially known for their pass rush. You got to correct me if I'm wrong. I think he was the second highest rated pass rusher on the team.
Yeah, so Ryan Henderson was alongside another star edge rusher from San Diego State and Trey White, who they were early in on too. But Ryan Henderson along the other side, like you said, a riser for them. He's being projected as like a pressure first defender, and kind of in that jack role that you kind of saw Rylan Kennedy in this past season. But I mean, his 2025 stats, you got 22 total tackles, seven sacks, and a pass defended. I really like the upside that Ryan Henderson could provide this Aggie team right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They needed productive veterans that can come in like they've been doing the last 2 years, especially when they went and got Nick Scorton to kind of mend with Shamar Stewart and Shamar Turner at that spot, 2 guys who had been in the program, but getting a new face, somebody who was somewhat familiar, obviously being from Brian, but coming in, playing in Jay Bateman and Mike Elko's scheme. And for the most part, thriving early in the year. But these guys are a dime a dozen sometimes to find because teams are going to go hard after these edge rushers, knowing that they need to rebuild pretty much every season at that spot because of so many guys entering the portal. We've seen some very surprising names that have entered their name that we did not feel were going to enter, that we thought they're in a pretty good spot. But he's a guy who obviously when you're playing in San Diego State, you want to play at the next level, get more eyes on you, get more scouts to come to your games and watch you specifically so that you do a better shot at getting drafted much higher when you do declare for the NFL draft. So again, a great addition. I think Tony Catalina of Austin American Statesman is very high on Ryan Henderson. He was out there kind of defending some people who are like, well, why is he not the first highest, rated pass rusher? I was like, well, here's the film. Watch it. This dude's can move. And, he's got the speed and athleticism that when he was working with Tommy Moffitt this offseason, he's just going to get much better at his craft.
100%. I think Ryan Henderson, I believe he has 2 more years of eligibility remaining too. So he'll still be here in the Aggie system year over year. So I checked the tapes. We actually ended the show last week with 5 minutes to go, and he committed with 5 minutes left in the show last week. So that's why we were not up to date on the current commits. So
I think we should probably say that Torian York also declared for the NFL draft moments after we caught up that show, which I don't think we need to go too much into. We can probably talk about some of the guys who declared at the end of the show. We kind of assumed that. It was just funny that we were both talking and going, oh, man, this all happened like right after we ended. But that's just how the portal works. Also, Bryce, we should say it because Randy in our chat kind of brought up Bryce Anderson did withdraw his name from the portal. He is coming back for a final season. You and I kind of discussed his potential role off camera, which will be very interesting. But we're going to get into that at the end of the show. We're going to still talk about these transfer additions. Do you want to stick with the D-line? Or do you, actually, you know what? Let's go to Ricky Gibson next, cornerback from Tennessee, because I think you and I are very high on this young man and what he can bring. It's just kind of incredible that they've had 2 guys now in Gibson, and I think it was Isaiah Horton, who really just took 1 visit and committed to A&M. There may have been a couple others before that, but outside, compared to like Cam Coleman, who took every visit possible before making a final decision over basically a full week period, they really knew that A&M was the spot for them. And I think Gibson sees that he's coming into a system where Mike Elko has developed cornerbacks and safety to not just excel at this level, but build their bodies, build their skill set, build their mindset to play in the NFL for a very long time. I mean, the NFL is just littered with former defensive backs who Mike Elko has coached during his entire coaching career, going back to his 1-year stint at Notre Dame, to Duke, to now with A&M. So again, a bigger body guy who's going to basically slot in as the number 2 guy on the outside with Des Ricks, in my opinion. Obviously, he did have some health issues last season, only playing in 1 game, but had a very productive and really, I'm going to call it elite, but borderline elite in coverage during the 2024 season. I think Tennessee was sad to see him go, obviously hoping that if he would have played this entire year, they thought they probably could have kept him. But it is true that we've seen in the transfer portal over the last couple of years, especially when it's gone really kind of crazy, is that even if these guys do miss a year, their chances of staying is lower because they feel like, you know what, I don't know if I'm the right fit right now. I'm going to go look at my options, see if somebody really wants me, and if there's a better system out there for me to get better and to eventually go to the NFL. So I love this kid. He was actually ranked 44th overall in 24/7 Sports transfer portal rankings, which is great. Horton's at 10, so A&M has 2 signees now in the top 50 of portal additions, which is great. And I'd like your opinion on this, because I think the cornerback room right now is set. Obviously, after Julio Humphrey announced that he had re-signed with the team, they've got some depth pieces from the 25 signing class that are kind of going to be elevated, and obviously getting Des Ricks back as their number 1 outside corner is fantastic.
Yeah, so I guess my opinion on it is that Ricky Gibson comes in and you have him compete with Julio Humphrey to be that starter along the other side of the DB room, alongside Des Ricks. And I know that Mike Elko does use a lot of the nickel corner stuff, and we'll see a lot of Jordan Shaw this next season after A&M doesn't land Edwin Joseph out of FSU. So we'll see a lot of Jordan Shaw there, and Bryce Anderson will also be playing nickel as well. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But for Ricky Gibson, he was part of a Tennessee defense in 2024, not this past season, but the one prior, 2024. That was a top 20 defense nationally, I believe even in the top 15 on some weeks, where their defensive line was clicking, their DB room was clicking. I mean, alongside Ricky Gibson was Jermon McCoy, who's being projected as a top 15 prospect in this next NFL draft. So you had Ricky Gibson already alongside other stars on a Tennessee defense. And even though his 2025 season was cut short by injury, in 2024, he played all 12 games. He finished them with 32 total tackles, 2 TFLs, 5 pass breakups, and a forced fumble while logging over 630 defensive snaps.
Yeah.
So he is an every down corner, which Mike Elko is going to love in this defense. He's very, very much plug and play.
Yeah, and I think finding that replacement for Will Lee was crucial. Getting that fixed because there are young guys in the system. Dejan Petaway is one guy. I'm thinking of. I'm blanking on the other 2025 signee, cornerback.
Neil Goins.
Yes, Goins. Yeah, Goins. Who I don't know if he's going to be outside. He could be
I believe he is an inside nickel.
Inside kind of nickel guy. Yeah. Again, a lot of young names. I got a lot of names in my head. Sorry about that. But he felt like getting this done early was just crucial. Knowing that you're safe on the outside and you'll kind of figure out the nickel situation this spring going into the fall is something that you knew you had to do anyways because Tyreek Chappelle was leaving. And that was pretty much your scapegoat in a way of, okay, if he's healthy, we're good. We can play man. We don't have to worry about the middle of the defense just getting exposed each time. But again, 600 plus snaps. That's what you want in these corners because they've seen it all, especially in SEC play. And I guarantee Tennessee's horrible defense this season really wanted Gibson on the field because, I mean, it was pretty atrocious, to be honest with you. But he's that type of player who can really calm things down. And the way that Des Ricks is playing right now, who I believe is on his way to having a career year after having a career year last year, this is a fantastic number 2 option.
100%. I love this pickup. He's only going to get better.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we can go. So we'll probably do the O-line last. We can really hit on defensive line. So I think we did talk about Antosaka last week, and I'm not sure if I think we did. And I'd
love to go back over him.
We can go back over it because you and I are very, very high on this guy. I think
this is my favorite pickup of the cycle
because you texted me right after that happened and was like, "This is by far my favorite." And I'm like, "Yeah, I get it, 100%, like 100%."
I am enamored with this pickup. I mean, Antosaka entered the portal with a do not contact tag, but I was like, "Oh, okay." There's just going to be another guy who's just going to have his agent set his visits. But it was really, really quick for me to reach out to some people and already hear that Antosaka was already on A&M's radar because he was their star pass rusher for the past season. I mean, he started all 11 games. I think he wasn't able to play in one of them. So he started 11 games, recording 13 tackles, four TFLs, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. And across his career, he has 12 sacks with Northwestern. So whenever you're taking a guy from one of these schools who have these academic standards that kind of inhibit certain prospects from going there, I mean, you hear these stories about people wanting to go to Notre Dame or Stanford or those teams. It kind of takes you off of what they could actually be as a player. You kind of hinder them for that. But we just saw this last cycle with David Bailey transferring from Stanford to Texas Tech, being an absolute superstar for them and being projected in the top 10 of the NFL draft. I think there's stuff that you cannot overlook, especially with a guy like Antosaka, which one of the guys I reached out to was an NFL like lower level scout. He does a lot of stuff on his own time. And he kind of compared Antosaka to a very, very watered down version of Abdul Carter from Penn State. So
yeah,
very, very much that outside edge rusher role that I think is going to fill in very nicely with the defensive line, probably filling in the spot of Dayon Hayes.
Yes, and mainly because I think you and I both believe that Marco Jones, who's coming into his sophomore season, is going to be likely the replacement for Cassius Al at this point. I think the staff is extremely high on him, barring any knock on wood injury issues or anything like that. Having a backup plan and a guy like Saka who could come in seamlessly and compete in that role is great. But yeah, Dayon Hayes and a third down guy, somebody you can trust to just brutalize outside tackles due to their athleticism and size. He's a freak. He was on Bruce Feldman's freak list, not just because of his lifts, but because of the ability to gain weight and still look very thin and kind of trim. I mean, it's incredible.
Guys, if you look at pictures of him, he looks like he is 220 pounds soaking wet, but he's really more 260.
Which is insane. Like, I'm like, that guy's 260. Like, he looks like a track runner. Like, that's the thing. So those are the type of guys who always make the freaks list, and they're freaks for a reason. There's somebody who you get into Mike Elko's coaching system where he's going to coach you hard. He's going to teach you all the basics, kind of trying to get you to become a complete player, not just a project guy who can provide some pass rush. Saka is going to turn into a superstar if he gets on that development track, and having a guy like Marco Jones, who already showed flashes last season, this edge group along with Henderson and others is going to be, I think, a big surprise for those who just kind of are writing off the Aggies in that way, going, well, Cash Sal's gone, so who's next? We haven't really paid attention. That's why we exist, to tell you that they have a lot of guys in that program right now who are very, very interesting and could make a splash next season.
Yeah.
But so the other two names on the defensive line that committed actually the last 2 days, Angelo McCollum, from Illinois, defensive tackle. This was a guy who visited, I believe during the weekend on Saturday.
He did.
Actually attended, I think, the basketball game.
He was there. So there was actually a video that we were able to take while at that basketball game that Angelo McCollum was on A&M's campus. And Angelo McCollum is definitely a kid that it won't turn a lot of heads, but I've had this discussion with one of my best friends, in that we keep looking every single year. It feels like Illinois just keeps pumping out a top 3 round defensive prospect, whether that was the Jershon Newton who went to the Commanders, whether that was an insanely fast and tall corner who goes to the Seattle Seahawks. I'm blanking on the name right now. The really, really fast corner on the Seattle Seahawks.
I know.
My point is that Illinois somehow keeps pumping out these defensive prospects that come out of nowhere, and they're not on our radar until their junior or senior year, and then they shine. And people are like, wow, I wish I had that guy on my team. So is Angelo McCollum that guy? We don't know yet. We'll have to see him on the field, but there's a reason you take a guy like him, and that's not because there are not many prospects left on the board, but that you really think that he can be that type of interior presence inside. So he has 2 years of eligibility remaining, but he was 4th on Illinois' roster in sacks, which is a big deal considering sack numbers are kind of skewed towards edge players instead of D tackles like he is. So he ended the season with 21 total tackles, 2 passes defended, 2 sacks. And it was really his sophomore year that had him really kind of break out for them. He didn't play much his freshman year with Illinois, but this past year he really did look like a big interior presence for them.
Yeah, taking over that, I guess, Tyler Onianum spot, I would think.
Yes.
I think that's where I kind of see him, and you can tell right in that photo. See that little tricep? See he that's a weight room junkie. That's somebody you can tell by the muscle definition, somebody who puts in the work, keeps the fat down, becomes a guy who plays at a 280-ish, I think, weight barrier. But he wants to focus on his athleticism to get in the backfield, stop the run at a high level. His PFF scores were very above average, very good. I think high 60s as both a pass rusher and a run defender. Again, you need run defense at the first level. The linebackers, that's another story that, we feel like that's been cleaned up in the portal after getting Coney. But at the same time, at the first level, stop the run there. Don't put it on the linebackers every time. To stop these physical running backs. So getting a guy like McCollum, I think, is just a great pickup. And I'm very high on him. I watched him a little bit, kind of learned. I don't watch a ton of Big Ten, being that I cover the SEC, but watched enough this year. And I do know, and I agree with you, that Illinois, and I think you're talking about Devin Witherspoon.
Yes, Devin Witherspoon. Yes.
Who, one of the most physical corners you'll see. But yeah, these guys, and again, physicality. These guys are physical players. I mean, Brett Bielema, for all the jokes and stuff that have come at his expense, the dude knows how to develop defensive talent, and he keeps just churning these guys. At Illinois, Illinois is a good program. It's not an elite program, but he gets these 3-4 kind of sub-4 star guys and just turns them into beasts. And so getting a guy like that, I think, is just going to be another instant impact guy for their D-line rotation. So the biggest name, I think, is CJ Mims, who committed on – this was Monday, so Monday afternoon. You and I have been talking about this for a while. He entered the portal, I think that – what was it? Sunday?
I think it was that Sunday morning.
That day, yeah. Because I remember hearing about that, writing about it, getting communications early that day. And immediately I was like, why does that name sound familiar? Oh, he's got a deep connection with their staff going back to A&M's GM when he was at East Carolina recruiting Mims to East Carolina. And obviously when he transferred to North Carolina, entering the portal, he's back on the radar immediately. He was one of the more highly coveted defensive tackles in this class, somebody who has high potential. I think you and I have both agreed to disagree on, really his fit with A&M and how much he can actually impact their pass rush. I still think that in terms of run defense, this is just another proven guy who can stop the run at the first level. He's not going to be confused or of what you know what I'm talking about. Yes. I'm all over the place right now. But either way, getting another body in there, somebody who's experienced and somebody you already have a past relationship with, I think is huge for the program.
It is big for the program, and I really want to highlight the run stopping ability of the guy, because overall, this was a guy who finished with 42 tackles for a North Carolina team who was struggling for a lot of the season, if not all of it. But he was second among the defensive linemen overall and sixth overall on the team in the entire defense in tackles. So he had 2 sacks and a forced fumble to go along with those 42 tackles. But from an interior perspective, Pro Football Focus really had him as a very good interior defensive lineman at just under a 70 overall grade for the entire year, which, standing at like 6'2" and 300 pounds, playing like going up from East Carolina, going up to North Carolina, and then continuing to play your way up to whether it's the SEC, Big Ten, or even where he was in the ACC, it's very, very hard to do. So he's just really willing himself to be a better interior defensive lineman. So pretty good pickup, in my opinion.
Yeah, pretty good. I think a lot of people sometimes when it comes to transfer portal, outside of like a Cam Coleman or last year the David Bailey, there are certain guys that you can basically just watch their film immediately and go, okay, he's going to be a monster. It doesn't matter what system he's in. It doesn't even matter if the coaching is poor. This guy's going to produce. Mims, I'm not 100% sure yet. I do think, though, being coached by Mike Elko and now Elijah Robinson and Tony Girard-Eddy is going to do wonders for him. I think getting into system and a winning program that is actually competing for college football playoffs, like North Carolina, we have no idea what the future is there with Bill Belichick at head coach, and to be honest with you. But I think that number really stands out. 42 tackles as a defensive tackle. He was doing everything for that team. He was stopping the run on every play. Having a guy like that among a group that now includes DJ Hicks returning, who officially re-signed with the team, according to multiple sources last night, this defensive line finally looks good enough to go into the season and think, you know what, I think we've improved in some areas, and we're not freaking out either, because we know that we have some young players that we do feel are going to make the next step from the 2025, 24, and 25 signing class. So, but getting 2 experienced guys, McCollum and now Mims, I think that kind of, unless there's somebody else we don't know about in the transfer portal right now that they're talking to, Etta, I think is one of them. But at the same time, they might be done here. I think that this was just the final addition that they needed.
Yeah, and then Randy in the chat, I'm not going to miss you. So Randy points out that he kind of thinks that Mims reminds him a little bit of Jaden Peavy. It's not a bad comparison.
Yeah,
consider it's just, I will say that Jaden Peavy was a little bit on the shorter side when it came to defensive linemen, but overall the strength and the run stopping ability overall, it's not a bad comparison whatsoever.
Yeah, Mims' size really sticks out, and I think that's what they love. They feel like, again, if this guy plays, he already plays with a high motor. He's already very productive. If he rides any type of interior pass rush, we're good, because DJ Hicks, I think, is going to have one of his best years. He already had showed that vast improvement this year as a pass rusher, registering 3 sacks. I think getting those two combined with McCollum, I think this is I'm very sold on this group right now. I just think that this is what they needed to do in the portal. These are the type of players they needed to get. So for the first time in a while, I mean, especially a couple people in my chats with on my Aggies Wire page that were just desperate for, why aren't we getting defensive linemen? Well, you got your defensive linemen, so you can now kind of go off and focus on whoever else they land. But I think the position group that I want to talk about the most, and we're probably going to talk about this throughout the offseason, is the offensive line. You and I actually wrote something for Aggies Wire, kind of looking at the entire depth chart. Obviously, they did lose a couple guys to the portal who likely weren't going to see the field at all. But right now, after landing Wilkin Formby from Alabama, I think that happened, was it that Friday, last Friday?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is somebody who you and I discussed can play both right tackle and left tackle. Obviously, after adding Tyree Adams from LSU, that's another player who can probably play left tackle or right tackle. Played left tackle last year with LSU, but could easily switch to the other side and play very well. They have a lot to think about, I think, in this area, because after landing Cohen Eccles, who was a former A&M commit, who they feel like is going to slot in at left guard where he played last year throughout the season, especially after Chase Besantis had declared for the NFL draft. I think they feel like their guards are kind of figured out with the rotation. It just depends who's going to start. Ashton Funk is another player that we're kind of looking at, either left or right guard. Man, I'm just blanking on him. Blake Ivy, who's another guy who played a little bit last year, but he's a huge dude and somebody who's going to put on even more muscle and healthy weight in the weight room this year, who could end up earning one of those starting guard positions. But obviously having a guy like Trovon Baugh now, who's experienced, who has a ton of experience in the SEC during his starting season with South Carolina, that's another option. So I think guard is figured out. It's just which tackle is going to start where. You and I both agree it could be Wilkins Formby at left tackle. Maybe that's just more comfortable for him. We also noted that he's a better run blocker than Trey Zune was. Trey Zune was an elite pass protector, which is going to help him in the NFL. Trust me that. But at the same time, really an average run blocker, whereas Formby, that's really where his strength is. But he did have an 80 pass protection score last year during his final season with Alabama. So, I think I heard a lot of people, especially some Alabama fans, not very high on him when he left and saying like good riddance in there. I'm like, I don't get that, because he's a very serviceable starter and somebody who now working under Adam Cushing could take it to that next level. But with Tyree Adams, I don't know. Do you feel like he could easily just slot in the right tackle and there wouldn't be any issues there?
I think that's why you bring him in the first place, is because they were definitely looking for offensive tackle type bodies in the portal, whether that they were looking for them to be placed at tackle or guard, because you knew who you were going to put at center or technically right guard in Mark Naboo, where we both project him both as the starting center this next season after re-signing with A&M just, I believe, yesterday. So we are now seeing that they are having to replace 4 offensive linemen on that line. So Tyree Adams is a very, very big prospect when it comes to offensive linemen. So when we saw him in his limited capacity with LSU, because they had some injuries along the offensive line, his pass protection was great. He allowed 0 sacks across 11 starts at LSU. So it's really, really efficient. Obviously, when there was a couple of games where he had to come in for an injured offensive tackle, and he gave up a sack or 2 there. But overall, this is the kind of guy who you bring in with Adam Cushing and the strength and conditioning program to be that starting tackle. I think that if you were to put Tyree Adams back over at left tackle, you'd be completely fine, because that was his natural position over with LSU. We saw 5-star Carius Kern kind of come in for him and kind of switch out with him. So we'll see what happens with Tyree Adams. I really do think that he could probably be switched over to left tackle. We're just going to have to see what happens in spring camp over that time.
Yeah, so there was a question in the chat. Will Lamont Rogers actually play this year? I do believe he will. He signed a new brand deal. I think he's on his way to earning a rotational spot with this O line. You got to remember that Cushing and Elko like to rotate these guys in. They like to keep them fresh outside of certain situations late in games. Like it's a close game, they're usually going to have their usual starting five out there. But if a guy's struggling, they are not afraid to take somebody out, especially if they trust the depth they have. So it's really up to that, right? This offseason is a big it's huge for this depth, right? It's huge for guys like Funk, Ivy, and Lamont Rogers to look like they've taken that next step to at least be a proven backup and cover for injuries was that? But then, sorry, that kind of caught me off guard.
Sorry,
but yeah, it's a situation where you need Lamont Rogers to play as well, because you do have the fear that if he's not seeing the field, he could potentially enter the transfer portal. He could look for other opportunities to start somewhere else, or at least play somewhere else, because these guys choose these schools to get tape, because eventually they want to go to the NFL. So you got to play to have tape, and you got to see the field. So it just really depends on his relationship with the staff, because there is a scenario where he potentially would redshirt, that he'd potentially say, you know what, tell him, like, we're going to figure out what your true position is. We're going to redshirt you. We're going to hope that you end up being one of our starting guards or tackles that next season. Personally, though, I don't think that's the case. I think that they knew coming into this season that Rogers was a guy they were going to focus on, because they do feel like if he is a guard or if it is a tackle, we're going to hear more about this hopefully in the offseason. I know that Elko is probably going to come out and speak about a week before or days before the spring season starts. Mostly he's going to talk about the 26 signing class, but he probably will give some quotes on the development of some of the guys in the roster, and hopefully he does maybe mention Lamar Rogers, because right now it's been mum. It's not a lot talking about him, because you got to remember that last year they came into the season knowing we've got Trey Zune, we've got Chase Basantis, we've got Mark Naboo, we've got Armaj Reed-Adams, and we've got Ruben Fatherly and Demetrius Crownover, and these are our starters. These are guys. We've got some guys that are younger that if somehow somebody gets hurt, Robert Borden's another guy that we talked about at tackle, who's a name that could easily end up vying for a starting spot, because he played very well for Trey Zune during a couple games this season. So there's a lot of names, and that's why it took me forever to write that article. I think it was like over almost 1,000 words, just kind of going through every grouping and looking at the guys who are going to be here versus the guys who are potentially going to enter the transfer portal, because it is a very, very deep group, because Adam Cushing has recruited a high level. He landed 6 O linemen in the 24 signing class. So he's got a lot of guys there that they feel like could end up being a big part of what they do in 26. But at the same time, they had to get these guys from the portal, because you have to, I mean, it's not just insurance. It's having a team. It's having an O-line that you can actually trust. And getting SEC experience was huge too. I mean, these guys, it's seamless for these guys. They're going to play pretty much all these teams they've already faced. Like you think at LSU and Alabama, they've already faced everybody they're going to play next season. So it's even better in that regard.
You know what's even better as well is our sponsor, Underdog.
Yeah.
So Underdog, hey, I've been having a great past couple of weeks with Underdog. I've been having a lot of fun, especially with like all of the NFL games that are going on right now. So like if you guys are like me and just like to add a little bit of extra flair to sports, or especially basketball and football, consider like being a part of what our sponsor does and play along with me as well. So our sponsor has been very, very gracious for us in adding a code so that all of y'all who want to play with us, want to play Underdog, you can pick higher or lower on a lot of projections and win some cash off of it. So if you guys use our code VOCFB Aggies on Underdog, play $5, you get $50 instantly added into your account. So very, very easy to do. And just have a little bit of extra fun.
And Aggie basketball is like a 9.5 point
underdog
tonight. Yeah,
which if that's not telling, I don't know what is.
Yeah, weren't they 8.5 against Auburn before that?
8.5, and look where that ended up.
Yeah, gotta love it. I really do. Now it's playing with house money. can't have it any better than that, to be honest with you. But yeah, as always, if you have a gambling problem, which is a serious issue in our country, so don't be afraid to ever call. You can always call 1-800-GAMBLER. So yeah, I think we're going to go more into the O-line, into really all these position groups later in the year. I think that's going to be very fun when we do enter the spring season. We get closer and closer. There's a lot to talk about there, especially after the transfer portal officially closes. We'll know who's on this team. Obviously, having 105 scholarships available makes it even better for this roster, because Elko's going to have a sure fun time looking through every position group and seeing, okay, who are we going to potentially redshirt? Who are we going to potentially kind of stow away for future use? Because there's a lot of talent in that 26 signing class, starting with Brandon Arrington, who
he looks like a superstar.
Oh my God. Going against Chris Henry, just step for step. Chris Henry again, the son of the late Chris Henry, who tragically passed away. He was a star wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. His son is a freak of nature, is going to be an instant star with Ohio State. Really listed and looked at as the top wide receiver in the 26 signing class.
He probably has the best hands in the cycle.
Yes, and Arrington was glued on him during the practices before the was it Navy All-American
Navy All-American Bowl.
Yeah, this is a lot of All-American games, so you get a little mixed up sometimes. But this kid is insane. I mean, and it's going to be hard to keep him off the field. I'm going to be honest with you. I get he's a freshman. I don't care. I mean, I don't know, man. I get that. Yeah, there's going to be more experienced wide receivers going against him, but we'll see how he plays this fall. I mean, I am so high on this kid. I think he could end up being an instant star. It's just insane to see a prospect play like this and play with so much confidence. I mean, this kid's got just a chip on his shoulder. He chose A&M over Oregon, which in today's recruiting age, people would go, really? Why would you do that? Look who's Oregon's produced. Look at the corners who have come out of there. He believes in Mike Elko's system. He believes that Mike Elko can mold him to becoming a first-round pick in the future. And, I mean, this kid's excited. He's always throwing up the gig 'em. He's always promoting A&M on social media and other in any live appearance he has. So this is a true blue future Aggie
this is someone where I saw a lot of uncertainty when Jordan Peterson took the job at Kansas State.
We all did, yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of uncertainty because Jordan Peterson crafted that relationship very, very carefully and very, very personable with Brandon Arrington. And Brandon Arrington immediately reaffirmed his commitment because of the relationship he's built with the rest of the coaching staff. I mean, Brian Goes Armiento and Mike Elko alongside Trooper Taylor as well, who's been a stellar superstar for A&M in recruiting. But Brandon Arrington looks more and more like the superstar corner that A&M recruited him to be. I know he can go both ways. I know he can be an elite wide receiver with his speed, but being the DB lockdown that he is in trailing every single wide receiver this past season in high school, I think he can be a very, very good contributor for A&M in year one as a freshman. And that I don't say that lightly, because I'm more of the opinion that a lot of freshmen across FBS should do a lot with their red shirt, whether that's learning in whatever program they are. I know that there are some questions around the red shirt rule, and that right now I know that all the FBS coaches met, where that's why we kind of have this 3-day quiet window right now, so all the coaches can meet. And there was the talk of the redshirt rule coming up, and they brought this as a unanimous vote that they wanted to move the redshirts from 4 games played to around 8 or 9 games played. So right now that they voted on that has to be institutionalized and kind of brought forward to a bigger panel. But the coaches are for it. It is not a rule that it's in place right now. So I know we had a couple of questions about the new redshirt rule. There's no new redshirt rule right now, just that is something that they are looking for the future. But a lot of kids now, and we're seeing a kid like Marco Jones, who this past year burned the redshirt because of how good he could be in this A&M system. And now he's going to probably start and be that strong side defensive end for Texas A&M this year. So it can be a definite give and take with certain people. but it all depends on the development of your program.
Yeah, it really just depends on your trajectory. I mean, there's a lot of guys who, especially if you are a 3 to sub 4-star type of player and you're going to a bigger program like an Alabama or a Texas A&M or Texas or any of those schools, and you feel like, well, there's a lot of guys in front of me in the depth chart. I really need to just sit a year and learn and have an opportunity over my next 2 years to gain at least a rotational spot, potentially a starting spot. And that's great. I mean, that's the great thing about redshirt. But at the same time, because of injuries and because of other issues, extending that red shirt does make sense. It is greedy in a way. And of course, coaches would want it because they want to, have a player available for nearly the entire season instead of, having to burn that red shirt if it's more than 4. We'll see if that passes. But at the same time, for a guy like Brandon Arrington, for example, I don't see this kid sitting a year and not seeing the field. I just think he's too talented. I just do not see it. If it happens, well, good for the rest of A&M's corner rotation because they must be that much better than Brandon Arrington, which would be kind of insane and would be really good for A&M CFP hopes. But at the same time, I think he's going to come in a room with guys that are a little older than him, and he's just going to wow that entire staff every time he's on the field, especially going against. And think about this. We talk about how good A&M's wide receiver rotation is. Yeah, he gets to go into those guys. He gets to go against Isaiah Horton in practice. That's going to be just box office fun, right? Get your popcorn ready for that because one-on-one on go routes to see if he can stick with one of the better wide receivers in the country, that's going to only make him better. It's going to make him better in practice. It's going to make him better on the field. So, but I get that. I read that earlier today. I think that there's a lot of interest there. We'll see if it goes through, but I still think they want to just keep the red shirt the way it is because it's already so chaotic in college football right now. Like, I think they just don't want to make any more changes to the point where it's just full chaos, to the point where just, you could literally come in, play more than half the season and go, okay, I'm redshirting. Like, especially like if you get hurt, like broke my collarbone, redshirt, like, let's go. Like, that's not really fair. So we'll see. But yeah, we'll talk more about these guys. Obviously, there's a lot we can discuss with this 26 signing class. I already talked about this wide receiver rotation, potentially this future one that these guys are all wholly dedicated to A&M, which is kind of incredible to see, like how much they promote A&M as well with Aaron Gregory, Matt Williams. I'm blanking. Jaden Warren. Thank you. I had Jaden in my head. Probably Jaden Peavy was in my head. Both balled out during the Navy All-American Bowl practices. I mean, Madden Williams is one of the rising prospects among everybody right now in terms of his hands, in terms of his route running, his versatility as at all three wide receiver spots. Aaron Gregory, obviously another bigger wide receiver. I think he's about 6'3". And Jaden Warren, just another late commit who feels like this system, even under Holman Wiggins. You gotta remember, these guys could have easily, kind of committed A&M and then went, we're just going to try out Holman Wiggins. We're not 100% sure we could easily enter the transfer portal want because we just don't know. We committed early when it was Colin Klein, so we'll just see. We'll wait and see. These guys seem like, we're all on board with Holman Wiggins. We feel like he can be the guy. He's going to help us reach that trajectory. And I mean, just the talent level of all three of these guys. It's insane. Warren was making plays during the game, but all throughout social media, all I saw was Gregory and Williams just play after play, making crazy catches and just in man coverage. And I mean, it's just a lot of wealth at that position for the future. So they're not going to be in an area they were under Jimbo Fisher, where landing elite wide receivers and sticking with the program is going to be an issue because, I mean, I don't know how many times I had to talk about that, write about it. Not a problem anymore.
Yeah, I want to talk about Aaron Gregory for a second because he did ball out a little bit more than the others at the All-American Bowl, which I was able to watch. But in his high school season, he got, I think, like 800 yards for 8 touchdowns, where it doesn't sound as much like an elite season. But considering the fact that he was playing for Douglasville, which has a bunch of NFL, or not NFL, but college-level prospects on it, it does make a little bit more sense. So that All-American Bowl, let me see if I can find it. But
total stats, yeah.
But yeah, I think one of the guys that I really respect in the scouting industry is Andrew Ivins over at 247.
Mhm.
And he very, very much goes in depth with how he scouts prospects, how it looks. He does like to take his time with it. And Aaron Gregory was one that just absolutely like not blew his mind, but that he was one of the more improved players from their first time scouting him till now. And it was quiet like at last year's All-American Bowl, because if you guys remember, Aaron Gregory did attend that one as well, but in the practices and then in the game, it looked like he was one of the guys that a lot of heads turned, including Andrews, and it was just like this. They've been evaluating for 3 years now, and it's just like, man, this kid has like incredible body control around the ball. This kid has very, very good, like he keeps his eye on the ball the entire time. I guarantee you he's not going to have one of those plays where a wide receiver catches or gets a 5-yard hitch route, turns around, tries to catch the ball, and tries to go before actually catching the ball. He's not going to have one of those plays. He's very, very sure when it comes to himself and finding the ball. It's not necessarily a ball hawk, but he's going to be one of those guys who you're just like, I feel like I can fit it in this pocket for him. If I can get it to him, I feel like he's going to be able to come down with it. And he's just been one of the more improved prospects for A&M.
Dare I say familiar play style to Cam Coleman in some ways?
We'll see.
Little bit. No, Cam Coleman was, trust me, I watched all of his high school tape before he committed to A&M. Nobody really matches him. He's a freak of nature. But at the same time, this is a guy who they feel like is their future X receiver. I don't know if he's going to really see the field a ton during the 26 season. I think that just after getting Isaiah Horton, if they didn't get Isaiah Horton, I'm going to be honest with you, Aaron Gregory might be a guy they would want to get on the field sooner than later because of that size advantage. But right now he does have time to develop. But he along with Arrington are two prospects that I feel are going to be potentially starters by year 2. I could easily see that as guys who just really, really improve, play enough snaps during their freshman season, kind of show the staff, this is what I'm offering you. This is what I'm building on right now. This is what you can hope to see in that second season. So it's again, it's just a wealth of talent. I mean, I'm just kind of looking over my brain, just all these guys they've signed, and it's crazy how better they've gotten in areas of need under Mike Elko, and just even with Colin Klein leaving, a lot of people kind of criticized the Holman Wiggins hire, thinking it was like a lazy hire or something like that because he was already in the staff. We will talk about that later with even like the Joey Lynch hire and all these internal staff hires. But this is what Mike Elko believes in. Obviously, he has not hindered recruiting, and obviously has not hindered transfer portal additions. So obviously these players are smart, and they feel like A&M is still in the right direction. So we're going to actually end the show with Randy actually brought a good question up. We were going to talk about that. We both don't feel like A&M is in on any of the top remaining running backs. I know the kid from Michigan State canceled his visit with A&M because of.
There was no visit in the first place.
There wasn't. So they. Yes, sorry.
I'll give a little back. So
give some backstory because
there were a bunch of running backs this cycle that it's been nationally reported that they were in on, kind of looking for the guy that could kind of take the ball right up the middle between the guard and the center. Bryson Washington was a kid from Baylor who they were very intrigued about and even got him on campus for a visit. Bryson Washington has since committed to Auburn. There were some they were able to get around 60% of the way there, but I don't think it ever got over the hump for them. But Auburn gets a really good running back in Bryson. They were also in on, they did call up Kentucky running back Dante Dowdell, which was around their radar for a little bit. Nothing ever really came of that one, and Dante Dowdell has since committed to Georgia. And the other one who Cameron mentioned now is Mekhi Frazier. Yes. Mekhi Frazier is a kid from McKinney, Texas. He was a 3-star prospect coming out of there, committed to Michigan State, and had a pretty productive first 2 seasons there. But he is now looking for a new home. Aggies were interested, but I just really think that the two sides couldn't come together on something so far. He has not committed anywhere as of now yet, but he's visited the likes of Ohio State and he's looking at taking other Big Ten visits as well, like Indiana potentially as well. So he's still a name that's circling our radars right now. But Mekhi Frazier is one of those kids where you can definitely run in between the tackles. So if anything comes out of that, it'll definitely be circulated around national media, and we'll talk about it here. But the question that was posed, a great question, Randy, is that he asked if we don't pick up another running back, does that mean Terry Bussey could see some light as running back? So I think I'll give my thoughts all right now is I don't think you'll have to see him back there because of the confidence you have in the running backs you have so far. They were just looking at someone who maybe could have another EJ Smith type of role where you bring him on certain third down scenarios. If for all my people who've played NCAA 26, you do have the option of putting a different running back in on your third down running back. There's a specific position for it. So he's kind of one of those things where things just couldn't come together. But I think you feel very good about the prospect of the running back room you have, whether that's you feel like DeAndre Ryden could step up in that power back role, whether that's a big jump from Jamarian Morrow, or could it be one of the true freshmen coming in KJ Edwards or Carson Baker, who come in with a lot, and I mean a lot of talent.
A lot of hype too, and well-deserved hyped.
Well-deserved hype for both of them.
Yeah, that's the thing. I understand, and I think a lot of the fan base, a lot of the more, I wouldn't say negative Aggie fans, the ones we love, I'm not going to name all of them, but highly entertaining, and they're just keeping it real. I get it. At the same time, like they feel like A&M needs to add another back. They don't even care who it is. Add another powerful guy who, like you said, is a between the tackles type of runner that you saw Miami just expose A&M's defense with. Obviously, Miami is in the national championship game, so that did help them a lot throughout the season, especially in the postseason, control the line of scrimmage and have that powerful running game to help Carson back out. But I don't know. I understand that, yeah, the Frazier thing could change, but at the same time, you look at the rest of the running backs that are in the portal, there's not a lot of options I see there for A&M, and I also think that if you would ask Mike Elko and Trooper Taylor today, do they feel good about the running back room? I think they're going to say yes. I think that they now know what they have in Jamarian Morrow. They obviously know what they have in Ruben Owens, who officially announced his return. And when you talk about like a guy like Tiger Ryden, he could easily be that guy, right? He is a more powerful back. He's built that way. He did show a little bit of his game off in the last game of the year. Is a guy who, with another year of playing in the system and kind of getting his body right and getting back into shape, could easily vie for one of those spots. But I'm telling you, KJ Edwards and Carson Baker. KJ Edwards, I think a lot of people already really know about. You just watch his last season, his senior season, and even his performance in the national championship game. This kid is just on another level right now. He is good enough to play next season. He's good enough to vie for a number 2 spot, in my opinion. We'll see what happens there, because this is just hype right now, so it really doesn't mean anything. We'll see what happens on the field. And Carson Baker, another, correct me if I'm wrong, more of a powerful runner as well, like somebody who...
He's got broad shoulders, I'll tell you that.
He's a big dude, right? I think he's a really physical guy as well. He's kind of a mix between the type of running back you're looking at. A great replacement for after losing Jonathan Hatton to Oklahoma. I think he's a shoe-in for that spot. That's another guy that he's not just a name. Like, that's the thing. There's a lot of guys that come in these classes that we look at as, I mean, he's good, but he's not good enough to play like in year one. It's different now with some of these running backs. I'm telling you, we've seen it all across the country. Some of them just surprise you early on, and some of them end up starting for teams out of nowhere. Alabama's had a lot of those guys in the past couple of seasons, and A&M is on that trajectory right now because they knew, and no offense to Le'Veon Moss, we all love him here. He put in everything he could to this program. He just had too many injury issues. I am glad that A&M goes in the season not doing the what-if game, because the what-if game just drags you down. I hope that Le'Veon Moss has a great NFL career and gets healthy, but at the same time, it's good they don't have to deal with that right now because they have healthy backs. Ruben Owens is coming off for a career year. He has a lot to fix in terms of his feet and in terms of his balance, but at the same time, he already showed he's a home run threat. He's someone you can trust. He understands his offense. He's been with this team now 3 seasons, 3 seasons. And Jermaine Morrow is like kind of a bowling ball, versatile back that played a lot this season and is now going to vie for that number 2 role. We already talked about Tiger Ryden. So I think right now they feel good where they're at. If there's somebody who just comes out of nowhere that they can get for a reasonable price and that they feel is going to just provide value to them in 26 or beyond, I could see that happening. But right now, the fact that the Frazier thing didn't work out and that, maybe Frazier's thinking, well, I don't want to go to a loaded backfield.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go somewhere where I have the chance to be either the number 1 or number 2 option. I completely understand that. There's no offense to that. I get that. As a player, you're looking at the best option for you. You're not just going to go there to help them do whatever you can to win. I mean, there are some players who just, they can't find other options. They have to join a team just to join a team. But that's not the case with some of these talented backs that are out there. Bryson Washington did deal with some injury issues. I think that maybe was kind of a problem with them in that way. And they thought, maybe we don't want to deal with that again. We just want to go into the season knowing that everybody's healthy and we don't have to worry about that position as much. But I think you said it perfectly. This is just where we're at right now. But I think A&M fans, and we'll make sure to do our job here and tell you, I think it's okay to feel fine with this room. Especially after Ruben Owens officially announced that he's coming back. And he's going to watch the film like everybody else. He's going to see the things he needs to work on. But let's be honest here. We talked about O-line. The run blocking needs to be better. They need to open more holes for these guys because if you open holes for Ruben Owens, he's going to find them, he's going to exploit them, and he's going to find himself running 50 yards. So they got the speed and athleticism for this group to be very, very good. I just get the apathy of we see these other teams that are, whether it's Indiana and Miami, who have a very balanced attack and an O-line that is just opening up holes left and right for undersized backs, guys who were 2 to 3 star recruits, some of them. You've got a lot of talent in this backfield compared to them. So it's not something that I would lose sleep over. But again, portal's not closed yet. There could be a name that come out, and the Frazier thing, I mean, we'll always keep you updated on whatever we get intel-wise there.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to end the show tonight. I mean, we'll tell y'all. we're going to be covering this, absolutely, because
it's only January.
Because after next week, we're not going to have football for another 7 months.
Yeah, which is
from college football, at least. We'll have a couple more playoff games for the
playoff
NFL.
games.
We'll have college football.
Yeah, watching the Texans basically probably retire Aaron Rodgers at this point was just, I mean, I turned the game off like after it was like 30-6. That's the part of the NFL where I'm like, man, I wish college football wasn't ending so early, but at the same time, football is football. I hope that the games are more exciting going into this weekend. But man, that Houston Texans defense, I saw a lot of people basically saying, man, if Dallas had that, well, I was like, yeah, if every NFL team had that defense, a lot of people telling me that.
I guarantee you that Texans defensive coordinator is going to take a lot of calls about being a head coach.
Just ask Josh Allen if he'd like to have that defense. Go ask anybody else right now. I mean, Denver has I don't know if Denver's defense is as good as their defense, but
it is.
We'll see if they waste that defense.
It very much is. Their defense has been, I think the stat was they've caused the other team to score 13 or less points, and it's like 9 of their games, 10 of them.
Yeah, we'll just see if QB1 doesn't waste that opportunity there. So, I mean, we've seen that a lot. Great defenses are wasted by bad quarterback play.
Hey, we'll see. The Broncos still are the number 1 seed for a reason.
Yeah. So, yeah, A&M obviously plays Tennessee tonight on the road. Again, they're 3-0 in the SEC. It's been an incredible run so far. Tennessee just got blown out last weekend. They've been very good at home, very big, very physical team. Obviously do very well at home, but at the same time, like I said, this team is playing with house money. They're playing together, which is the biggest thing. They're playing through Rashawn Agee, who's been fantastic. I can't praise this kid enough. And again, if you just hit enough shots, play good defense at the end of the game, we'll see what happens. But either way, again, you can afford a loss on the road. You can afford some losses. You just want to keep winning because you know that you're pretty much in the bubble right now of the NCAA tournament. So you got to kind of stack that resume up.
Just keep winning, guys.
That's all you can do. We will be back next Tuesday. We'll have a lot to talk about. Obviously, we don't think really there's going to be a lot of transfer movement then, but we'll see. Obviously, there's a lot we can and will be discussing in terms of this roster. We will start to talk about basketball a little bit more when the season really gets into the depths of SEC play. But we really had to cover all of this today. So, I mean, I'm glad we got that done. And I'm glad that we could really see this transfer portal and see all the areas they've covered and look at it much different fashion than we had to in years past, where a lot of these guys were depth pieces. But I think Elko and his staff really went out there, got star level players that can come in, make an immediate impact, and get them back in contention for the college football playoffs. So, as always, you can cover. Jesus, I'm out of it today.
Hey, you guys can follow Cameron over on X at Cameron Honesty under his name. You can follow me over on X at Torres Cannon. Make sure you guys are in tune with what Cameron is doing over with his writers over at Texas A&M Aggies Wire, over part of USA Today. He's got a lot of stories. He's pumping out stuff every single day, covering the Aggies, especially through the transfer portal. And you can follow myself over on Patreon over at Bell Tower Intel. We're covering all the behind-the-scenes recruiting stuff for 2026 and beyond. So all of your transfer portal needs on the insider stuff, go ahead and follow. We're also looking ahead at 2027. But other than that, I think we're going to have a great week, man.
Yeah, and it's just fun. It's fun that they got all the portal guys we hoped they'd get, and now we can kind of start shaping out what we think, this season's going to be, what we think. I mean, I know we're going to talk a lot about Marcel Reed, but at the same time, I'm glad we can talk about Marcel Reed and him throwing to a very good wide receiver group, because if we were going to be talking about Marcel Reed throwing to a above average receiving group, it would not have been fun. So
100%.
It's going to be easy sledding from here on out. But as always, guys, we'll see you next Tuesday. Game as usual, and have a good night.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select a betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.